Can I ask a quick question, please?
Yes.
I'm only seeing 4.
So welcome to the first of the mentorship group. And right off the bat, what I want to do is, instead of calling it mentorship group 1 and 2, which could have some sort of a sense of, better or worse, I want to actually come up with colors. So what I'd like is for each of you to put your 2 favorite colors into the chat box, and also where you're coming in from, just so people can get acquainted, where Lolly's coming from and where Timothy's coming from. We've got people in Hawaii and California. So favorite colors and where you're coming from. And then I'll see if there's a particular, if there's an agreement that kind of develops, and you guys will be able to name the color of your group. Right? And while you're doing that, just give you a couple of basics. This is going to be a 3-month course. It's intensive. I really ask you to try and be well prepared before, I always say 5 o'clock, that specific time, before the start of class. Don't come rushing in eating, okay? If you can eat, rest, be prepared before we come in, I'd really appreciate that. It's a smaller group and we're gonna do a lot of deep work with each other. Likewise, don't schedule anything until 7:30 or 2.5 hours after the start of class. Because again, if we're in a deep experience, we're holding space for somebody, you're doing deep coaching, I don't want people having to leave. And I also don't want you then, going straight from your process into something else. So really allow time, okay? It's going to be very interactive. It's going to be much less Scott and much more of all of you, especially as we really get rolling, okay? Final outcome, hopefully all of you are going to be making money coaching. And it's really my goal for that to happen. I mean, that's really what I want to have happen here. And obviously the world is changing quickly, has changed, continues to change. And to our advantage, our world is really going digital in a big way. And so I'm really hoping Love Coach Academy can catch that wave. We certainly have caught the wave with my Saturday night live programming. Just for a quick, I'm really excited. I mean, this just started organically. It started as a fundraiser for Fantuzzi. Then Deborah Giusti, and I just said, well, let's do it as a weekly Saturday Night Live. We had 900 people who registered and were in the webinar room on Saturday night, and another 7,500 who saw it on Facebook. And today we formed a partnership with Kenny Kaufman, who's the owner of the New Living Expo, which was supposed to happen this month, and he had to cancel it. And he's got all this time on his hands. So he's gonna help us take it to the next level. We're beginning to get some really cool acts. Jai Utal and Tina Malia are gonna be some of our musicians coming into upcoming ones. So we're really growing that. And as we grow that, it's all done under the auspices of Love Coach Academy. So it's already, I've had a lot of people reaching out, what is Love Coach Academy? And we're gonna be doing promotion during that. So, we're learning how to work it. And of course, some of you have already come into the Love Coach Academy online groups that we've been doing. Lolly has been at probably half of them. So let's all twinkle Lolly. She's been participating the most. And Anna Prabha has also participated quite a bit. And of course, it's all optional. Some of you are going to be super active with Love Coach Academy. Some of you are going to kind of learn the tools, take them, and you're going to go do your own thing. And that's all okay. Just stay in presence around it with me, okay? And it's all changing every week. It's changing. We are tomorrow, Paul, Sterling, Debbie Garcia, Christopher, and I, who are kind of the 4 people that have been running things, are going to decide how we want to move forward with the Love Coach Academy online offerings. And I don't know if we're going to stay with 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. 7 days a week. I definitely want to have a regular schedule, but I'm leaning towards there being specific things every week, literally like a TV show, like a TV network. Obviously, every Saturday night, we're going to have Saturday Night Live for the Global Peace Tribe. Definitely what's going to happen is, if any of you saw the interview I did with my friend Roxy, I've got a friend named Roxanne De Palma who's outrageous and very wise and really fun. And so she and I are going to do something every Friday night, you know, Raw and Wild with Scott and Roxy, something like that. And I'm really excited about that because she's, if you didn't see the one we did last Friday night, check it out. She's pretty cool. Certainly Paul Sterling is going to have something that's a Paul Sterling themed something a few times a week. I'm going to have, I definitely want to continue doing Sacred Sundays on Sunday mornings and some sort of empathy practice group on a regular basis, probably Wednesday nights. So if any of you, and I've already put that out there and I've heard back from a couple of you, but if any of you, let me know when you're available, just in general. It doesn't have to be 9 a.m. or 6 p.m. So let me know your general availability and what you really feel like you're ready to commit to. Like maybe I'll make up something. Let's say Heidi, because Heidi is one of the more advanced people in this class. Heidi's been coaching for many years. So Heidi might say, hey, Scott, I'd love to do a recovery. I'd like to commit to doing a recovery online class through Love Coach Academy every Tuesday or every Thursday, or something like that, and we'll make that happen. So let me know what you're interested in doing, and we'll put it into the hopper and develop. Throughout the mentorship group, there's going to be times that I'm teaching you tools and you're practicing the tools. There's also going to be times that you're going to be coaching each other. And then as you develop your coaching, and you're all at different levels, certainly Lolly and Heidi have a long history of coaching. Timothy probably was coaching. You might have been coaching before I was coaching, Timothy. I mean, I know you've been doing it for a long, long time. Oh, wow, he's frozen. He looked so intent on what I was saying. I thought, wow, he's really focused on what I have to say there. So, we're all at different levels. And if you want me to watch you coaching someone that you is a friend or someone that you've brought into the mix, ask them if they'd be willing to record it using Zoom. If you don't have a Zoom account, we can schedule a time when you could use mine if I'm not doing something with it. And record it. And then I might not always watch the whole thing, but what you can do is say, Scott, I want you to watch how I started it. Or Scott, 35 minutes in, we hit a really tricky place. I'd love to see your thoughts on how I handled that. So I'm going to make myself very available to support all of you, but I also have very limited time. And mind you, I'm doing 2 mentorship groups. We've got the Thursday night group, and we've got tonight, the Monday night group. Now, if any of you really, really want to switch to Thursday, and we've already worked out that Allison's going to switch to Thursday, so you can all twinkle Allison goodbye at the end of the class today. If any of you also have a really strong desire to switch to Thursday, let me know. I'll check and see if anybody on Thursday really has a strong desire to switch to Monday. I want to keep it to approximately the same number of people in each group. You're going to be doing tonight the first module, which the people on Thursday night already did, but then we could do a switch after that. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah. Okay. Are there any burning questions that anybody has that might be relevant to the whole group? Nope. Okay. So we're going to go right into the first practice. And this is really going to take pretty much our entire day. Some of you have done this before. It's called the 10 Pillars of Self-Mastery. And it's Emily and I designed it. By the way, I think Emily and I are going to be doing a weekly show also, it looks like. We're going to go for a walk and talk tomorrow to talk about it. It's, for those of you who have done it before, perfect. You can see, wow, where am I at now? What it is we're going to look at 10 qualities of self-mastery. And these are all qualities that some of us are really good at some of us are really struggling with, some of us might be masterful, and some of us be, wow, I never even thought of that before. And there's no right or wrong. We all are where we are. And this is like a practice for us with love coaching. As love coaches, we are not better than anyone. We might be more advanced in our empathy skills. We might be further along in certain tools and practices. We probably are. But we are not the great therapist that's putting somebody on the couch and shrinking them and diagnosing or evaluating what's wrong with them. We're coaches that with them, we're with, it's empathy with our clients, with our friends. Wow, we understand how challenging that is. And we never see that someone is bad or stupid or wrong or broken or fucked up. We do not see people that way. We see people with the empathy of how challenging that childhood is, and it still impacts them today. We see how difficult their marriage is. We see how hard that misery go round that they're stuck in with their mother is, right? And mother's not bad, husband's not bad. It's just hard. And we're helping them unravel it. Does it make sense to everybody? Because that is like the essence of love coaching. And so today, same thing. Be honest. You know, if you look at one of these and you go, wow, I've never even thought about that before. I'm a 2 at that. I'm really challenged. That's beautiful. That's okay. Be honest, right? And hopefully, as we do this, we become aware of where we stand with these different qualities, and we improve and we grow. And it becomes a homework assignment. We also celebrate where we are strong. Same thing. If some of you are like masterful at it, awesome. Share that with the group. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go through these 10. We're not going to have time to stay in large group and hear from everybody. So what we're going to do is we're going to stay in large group for the first couple of ones. And then I'll do a couple, and then you'll go into pods. So everybody will still get a chance to talk, okay? We'll have 3 pods of 3 people each, okay? So you'll each get a chance still to talk and to share with pod partners. And I might mix the pods up. I don't know. I'll either keep the same pods or mix it up. But any other questions? So you may want to have a piece of paper and a pen, or you may want to have another document opened up on your device, your computer, just to take some notes, okay? This is being recorded, and we're going to be using a PowerPoint that Emily and I created, actually, I think 3 years ago, or maybe 2.5 years, well, probably 3 years ago. And I will make this PowerPoint available to you. In fact, while you're getting pens and paper and ready, let me put the PowerPoint right now into what we're currently calling Mentorship 1, but we'll soon give it a color. Or actually Mentorship Group 2. See, I'm already getting confused. Once it's a color, it'll be easier for me. Here we go. So if you need to reference it, like when you're in your individual breakout rooms, it's now in the Facebook Messenger feed that's been called Mentorship 2. Let's take a look at the colors real quickly. Magenta raspberry, earth tones, blue, silver, Nevada City, of course, aquamarine and orange. We're not getting a lot of consensus here, kids. Gold, bronze, blue, teal, aqua, turquoise, gold. Okay, we're getting a lot of gold, and we're getting a lot of turquoise, purple and pink. How would people feel about the gold group? That's pretty high level. Remember the gold group? Okay, you are from now on the gold group. That's now the other group's going to get, well, why are they gold? We're platinum. We're going to be platinum, right? Hopefully it won't be that competitive. All right. So I'm going to share screen with you. And here we go. As we go through this again, just really taking a look at where do you stand with it. And just the first thing, this isn't how you do with it, but it's just a reminder, we are always learning and growing. Always. Even if we're masterful at something, we're still learning and growing. In fact, I want to tell a quick story about masterful. So I love movies. And some of you may know there's a famous Japanese filmmaker named Akira Kurosawa. Anybody know who Akira Kurosawa was? Anybody? A few people, great. So many years ago, the Academy, during the Oscar party, or the Oscar ceremony, the Academy gave him an honorary Academy Award. And I remember Spielberg, Lucas, and Coppola all gave it to him together. They all came on stage and talked about how heavily influenced, in fact, Star Wars was heavily influenced by a movie that Kurosawa made. He made the original Seven Samurai, which then was remade in America as The Magnificent Seven. This guy's been making movies for 50 years. When he got his Oscar, he was well into his 80s. Gets the Oscar, and this was years ago, and I'll never forget it. He very humbly accepts it and says, you know, thank you. I have been making movies for 50 years, and really, truly, I feel like I'm just now learning how to do it well. And he wasn't, you know, he was like sincere, right? So we are always learning and growing, channeling your inner Akira Kurosawa. All right, the first one, and we will come back and everybody will have a chance to share in the large group, because this is so fundamental. Self-responsibility. How do you do with taking 100% responsibility for your thoughts, your feelings, and your needs? How do you do with taking 100% responsibility for your thoughts, your feelings, and your needs? And of course, this is foundational to compassionate communication. It's foundational to what we learned through Marshall Rosenberg. And so if you find yourself still saying, you make me so angry, or he just drives me crazy, well, you're not taking 100% responsibility for your thoughts, feelings, and needs. You're still assigning to someone else or something else your experience, your thoughts, your feelings, your needs. Yes, Love Divine. Are you raising your hand? Oh, no. Okay. So I'm going to open it up, and just each person, like 30, 45 seconds. How do you do with that? Lolly.
Oh, well, you know, I just wanted to make a comment. The self-responsibility for me is noticing that I have a choice about, you know, if somebody else is angry, I have a choice about how I react to that and how I take care of myself. So, you know, I can get away from like going, oh my God, how can I be responsible for this other person? But it's not about that. It's about how am I my own best friend? And so then that sort of switches responsibility into like friendship, right? So how am I self-friending to myself? That's how I put it.
Beautiful. That's a beautiful twist or way to practice it. So good. And what score would you give yourself on what scale of 1 to 10? What would be?
I would say I'm about an 8. Mm-hmm. You know, always room for a little improvement.
Yep. Okay, good. Who wants to go next? Who wants to share next? Deborah, and then Allison.
Okay. I actually feel good at this. Also, I have worked hard my whole life to develop my practices. So I'm starting the day every day with meditation, literally. And I have a meditation buddy, my brother. So I'm always doing that. I don't miss it. I'm putting good nutrition in my body, you know, self-care, all these different things to make sure that I know, again, what Laura said, that Lolly said, that I have choice.
Yeah.
And if I watch myself slip, I know I've made a mistake right away. I don't try to be, arrogant, and I'm pretty fast to apologize if I know
Good.
I've made a mistake. Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, thank you for that. Okay, Allison, how do you do with it?
Unmute. Okay. Hi. Sorry, I'm just going to pre-phrase this by saying hello to everyone. I don't know all of you. I know some of you, but I'm happy to see you all. I just like to greet people. So, hi. You know what I'm noticing that's really important for me in my process is noticing when I am creating a story around a situation, and taking responsibility for the story that I'm telling about the situation. I think that's really, really important because I'm trying to model that for my two young boys. And noticing when I'm attributing motivation without having complete information is something that I think is a place that I can always grow. I've been talking a lot to the children recently because we're in close quarters and don't have a place to go right now, like the rest of the world, about coming from a place of curiosity instead of a place of judgment and how that changes interactions. And I think I like to believe that I'm pretty good at this, but I think there's plenty of room for growth. So I'm going to give myself like 6.5, 7, just because I know that there's going to be days when I'm really good at it and days when I fall down, and that having the humility to notice when I am in judgment is an essential part of growing towards my best self. So
Beautiful. Thank you.
that's where I'm at.
Thank you. And you know what? I forgot to twinkle Deborah and Lala too. So we're twinkling all three of you, the first three that went. Thank you. Okay, let's go next for, say, Anaprabha, then Heidi. You're the next two.
Everybody, self-responsibility. I give it about a 7, I think. That's what comes up. And I really try to really watch my choices and make sure when I'm making choices that I'm able to hold those, that I'm clear at the choices I'm making, and I take responsibility for those choices. And so I really try to stay in integrity, and agreements are really huge for me. When I make agreements, I follow through with my agreements. And I find that a very, very high priority for me. And I want that in my relationships. At this point, I've decided to have really strong boundaries, getting really strong boundaries around agreements. And it feels good. It's really empowering to get really clear that, if people make agreements with me, if I see that and I watch, I'm also like, we'll watch, I'm like, really, okay, let's see how this goes. And if it's consistently the same thing, agreement keeps getting broken and broken and broken, right? I'm like, okay, maybe it's just, I don't have energy for that, because that's going to really wear on my nervous system.
Yeah.
So that's not going to work for me.
Yep.
I get very clear now. And so I take responsibility for those choices that I make. Yeah.
Good job, Anaprabha. Timothy, were you able to track what we're doing? Were you able to track the first? So I can't hear you because you're muted. So we're going through the 10 pillars of self-mastery. And the first pillar that everybody's kind of talking about how they do with it is how you do with taking 100% responsibility for your thoughts, feelings, and needs. I'll briefly share the screen again. So this is the first pillar. I'll have you go last so you can think about it. How do you do with self-responsibility, taking 100% responsibility for your thoughts, feelings, and needs? Okay. Heidi.
Hello, all. Aloha. I think there's, goes up and down at different times in my life. Probably a couple of years ago, I would have gave myself a 9. And right now, I think I'm at a 6. I'm very impacted by those around me. And it doesn't stay a 6. I mean, it takes me longer to come back to myself and figure that out right now than it would have in the past. So my reaction time is slower. my response time is slower, where I feel a little more victimized than I used to. And then, I'm able to draw back and take self-responsibility, but there's a lag time that I'm not loving right now.
Yeah. So I just really so appreciate the honesty of that. Thank you for that. Thank you. It's like no matter how long we've been doing this, we might hit a rough patch in our life. And when something really hard is happening, all of a sudden, we are naturally much more in reptile brain, right? It just happens. I gotta get the reptile brain in every class at least once, right? So, but it's really true. When we're under extra pressure, economic pressure, coronavirus pressure, difficulty in our marriage or our relationship or with our kids. Yeah, I mean, we would have been at a 9 last month and now we're at a 6, so that's really real and honest. I really appreciate you being honest about that, Heidi. Let's hear from Love and then Laura and then Timothy.
Hi, everybody. I am not new to the Love Coach Academy, but I am new to these sharing groups. So I'm really excited to be here. I have been listening to the recordings from the Compassionate Talks over the last couple of weeks. And just today, perfectly, I checked in with myself with regards to this very question. So I literally just thought about it today for the first time, like, how am I taking responsibility for my thoughts, feelings, and needs? And the first thing that came to me is that I don't. There are two different situations how I take self-responsibility, either with myself when I'm by myself. I tend to do that really well. When I'm by myself, spending a lot of time alone, it's easy for me to self-source and to check in with myself. And then the other situation is when I'm with other people, when there's another person standing in front of me. It's a completely different situation. I'm always focusing on the other person, never checking in with myself. My attention is 100% on the person in front of me. How are they responding? I'm reading, like, what are they feeling? What are they sensing? And I completely am not thinking about myself. So on a scale from 1 to 10, when I'm standing before another, taking self-responsibility is usually at like a 2 or a 3. And I'm so grateful for this conversation because I checked in with myself today. I was like, whoa, I'm really not thinking about myself when another stands before me. So the journey begins. The exciting journey begins of now paying attention. So I'm grateful for this.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you. I'm so appreciating your honesty there, Love. One of the questions coming up is honesty and transparency. So you'll get a high score in that one. Since that is something you want to work on, just getting into the rhythm of asking yourself constantly, what am I telling myself? What am I feeling? What am I needing? What am I telling myself? What am I feeling? What am I needing? So just have that become a regular part of your inner dialogue. Yeah. Laura and then Timothy. And I always have to let people know who's next, and that way you guys can be unmuted and ready to go, okay?
So I do feel like sometimes I have a difficulty to recognize or understand exactly what I'm feeling or maybe needing at times. So I'm working on developing that language more. I don't think that I don't think I typically blame others so much, but it's more about trying to understand complete situations. But maybe I actually displace responsibility too much in that way, so that like I approach every situation as like, what are all the factors and how do they all come together, rather than like, how can we each take like a kind of blame. So I think I'm working on figuring out how do we understand the relationship between self-responsibility and there's another one of those pillars, which is emotional accountability, maybe, or no, owning consequences. So understanding that we're each responsible for our own feelings, um, um, but then also understanding how we impact others somehow.
Right.
That's why I think it's confusing a little bit, is because it's not that you're at fault, but still you could change your impact.
Okay, so thank you for bringing up that delineation. In this particular thing, it's just knowing what's going on with you, right?
Okay.
Now, what we saw with love and with you, and probably with many of us, is a real desire to be considerate and tuned into other people. And that's a beautiful quality. And it makes for being empathic and a good healer. But right now, it's just self-responsibility, right?
Mm.
And so what's going on with me? What's going on with me? Don't worry, we're going to have plenty of attention on how to treat others, okay? But this particular question was just what's going on with me? And speaking of me, we have me has come in late. So, you know, Mimi was tardy. So maybe you're going to have to sit in the back of the class, unless you brought an apple for the teacher. What we're doing, Mimi, is grading ourselves on how we do with taking 100% responsibility for our thoughts, our feelings, and our needs, okay? And we only have 2 other people to hear from, Timothy and you, in like 1 minute on how you do with that. Timothy, you're up.
I am really good with my thoughts. I would say I'm very aware of what's going on in my mind, and really good at calming it down, bringing myself back to center, to what I would call awareness. Emotions, I'm very good at expressing them, taking care of them. I rarely let anything build up. But in the needs category, I tend to be focused on what other people's needs are and forget to focus on my needs. And if I do have a need that comes up, I often have a hard time expressing it. I have a really strong tape in my head that says that to be worthy is to give, and to receive is like weak and pathetic. And so I'm working on that, and I really appreciate getting reminded of it again today now.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Timothy. Oh, I think we've been forgetting to twinkle, so we'll just twinkle everybody. We'll have a universal twinkle. Mimi, how do you do with taking responsibility for your thoughts, feelings, and needs?
I'm, magical. I'm pretty awesome. So thoughts and feelings, I'm like, I've got it going on here. I know what's going on here. My reaction to those is a little iffy at times. Depends on if I've had vitamins that day or my exercise. So I'm a little iffy on those reaction times. But I feel like I'm really aware of them, and I'm really aware when I'm using tools and when I'm not using tools, and I'm a real brat. So I'm like, I know I'm not doing that. But the needs of myself, I'm really starting to get some firm, I keep reading over all of the needs values. So I keep practicing that, and I'm really grateful for that. So that's where I am. Scale of 1 to 10, 4 to 8. Thank you.
Okay, welcome. Okay, we're going to take a look at one more and do it all in group, and then we're going to go into pods for the rest. And I really need to ask everybody to keep their answers to 30 to 45 seconds, just so that I've got kind of like a time schedule here, okay? But it's great getting to know all of you. And isn't this a fun way for you to get to know each other? I mean, that's one of the reasons why I like doing it this way, because it's like we're all getting to know each other right off the bat, where we're strong, where we're weak, where we're challenged. That's pretty cool. All right. The next pillar of self-mastery is making choices with consciousness as opposed to egoic default pattern reactions. How do you do with making conscious choices as opposed to just following your ego, which is I should do this or I want to do that, or just being reactive, not even thinking about what your choice is, but just doing it as a default reaction? Now, obviously, with all these questions, it depends on certain situations, right? There might be some situations where you're very conscious and ones where you're very unconscious. A pretty common cultural example where we are reactive and not conscious is, hey, hi, how are you? Oh, I'm fine. When maybe we're not fine, maybe we're ecstatic, or we're depressed, or we're tired, or any number of things. But that's a common example of just a reactive choice where we're not really thinking through. So as you think about this, and I know it's hard to do in a short period of time, but as you respond, maybe you could think about where you most struggle with being conscious in your choice making. Right? That might be the answer I'm most interested in. Like, how do you do in general with this? But then where do you struggle with really being conscious in your choice making? Okay. So we'll go Laura, Deborah, Allison. Or Lolly, Deborah, Allison.
Well, thank you for that, Scott. You know, I just, one of the things that I think is really nice is I'm able to just drop into my body when you're asking this question and really feel, you know, I would say that I'm probably a lot better than I used to be because I don't like the consequences of not making informed choices. So I do little mindful practices throughout the day besides, you know, meditating, but I try to, like, if I'm walking up the stairs, I try to have my mind just on the steps. I do little practices just to keep me consciously in my body and grounded, because that's how my mind doesn't get away from me and start doing things, or, you know, I become less reactive. I also want to say that whenever I meet anybody, especially nowadays, like at a store or anything, they're like, well, how are you? And I always answer this way, but I do it to help all of us in proximity. I'm happy to be anywhere, because when you really start thinking about that, in that Zen moment, we can all appreciate that we're just, even without the virus, right? We're just happy to be anywhere. And it always brings me back to center. And it's funny.
Thank you for the teaching point. By the way, my two dogs are right down playing. So if you hear growling sounds, it's not my tummy and it's not me, it's my dogs, my puppies. Woof, woof, woof. Exactly. I mean, they're like literally right down there doing their thing. Deborah Haviland, and then Allison.
Okay, making choices consciously. You know, I feel like where I'm really good at that is having disciplines. So I'm already making choices, as I mentioned before, even having disciplines throughout the day, and that really super helps me. I notice right now I'm super tired because for some reason I didn't sleep well last night, and usually I sleep like a baby. So I think it's the full moon. If I get imbalanced, like I'm triggered, there's one close friend where I can just let my hair down and say it like it is. And it's like, oh, brother. And then sometimes I have to apologize. With most other people, I will very consciously choose what I'm going to say and be diplomatic.
Okay, cool. Cool. So blessings on that one friend where we sometimes lose it. We all have someone like that. It might be our mother, our father, our ex or exes. Allison, and then Anuprabha.
Okay. I think I'm good at making choices with consciousness when I am not surprised. Sometimes when something comes out of left field and I'm not expecting it, I go into freeze mode. And this just happened to me recently, so I'll give you an example. I was having an intellectual exchange with someone about my poetry. He was an editor of a journal. And he suddenly veered off from my poetry into what I looked like, and in a way that was making me very uncomfortable. And I froze, because those of you who know me from other classes know that I have a history there. And it really scares me when someone does that. And I didn't respond the way I wanted to. But I didn't respond at all. That was the problem. But I took a few days. I thought it through. I talked to my best friend, who's my husband. And then I was able to write a caring, I think, empathetic email explaining my boundaries and what I felt comfortable with and what I didn't feel comfortable with. And I felt really good about it. I felt like I was in my truth and I was making conscious choices. He, unfortunately, was still in a defensive place. But I feel good about the choice that I made. And I'm getting closer to my response having less lag time. It took me about 4 days to get to that point because I was in fear. And I'm trying to compact that time. So I'm working on that. I would say that I'm sort of at between 6.5 and 7 with it. And I'd like to get up to 9 or 10.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing that with us, and thank you for the story. And yeah, I mean, of course, when we get thrown off center, we go into, again, reptile brain takes over. And again, remember, anytime we perceive the possibility of attack, most likely our reptile brain takes over. So let's see, our order is Anaprabha, followed by Heidi.
Conscious choice making. You know, for me, with choices, I really tune in deeply, like with my body, also, like really dropping in, and like big choices, like for example, to have children. That was like a huge choice. And what happens with choices, I can have a tendency to procrastinate with some choices. But the big choice is when the energy is there. I really tune into the energy. And really when, you know, especially for big things, am I all in with this? You know, and I really tune in to if I'm all in with something. And I really wait for the energy to be there and tune into that. And if it's like just, there's nothing else I can do but do that. For example, for a big choice like have children, that's how I would have children. You know, it's only consciously and with that big energy choice, right? So like a conscious conception in that way. And so that's where I go. Really, I try to really just look at my energy and where my energy is going and move with that.
Cool. Hang on one second. I need to, I apologize. Let's twinkle. I need to communicate something to Paul Sterling because he's doing a Facebook Live and he doesn't know how to do it. In fact, I'm in the middle of using my computer for my class, and I can't go onto Zoom from both. I can try starting you on Facebook Live with my iPad, but it would be better if Debbie can help you. Okay, sorry about that. Multiple things happening here.
Could I add one more thing?
You may.
Because I kind of saw you, I thought there was something up that you needed to go. And I was like, yeah, I was watching that empathetically with you.
Thank you.
There's also this other aspect of my this kind of tendency I have to procrastinate that is really annoying. And it's because I always like to be really like, kind of like have the energy to do something, right? So I want to really feel the energy, but sometimes you just need to get things done, like taxes before October, you know, or paperwork, like for all this paperwork that we need now for the pandemic, you know, and it really, you know, I often need help with paperwork, you know, just to a little bit of hand holding. Just once I'm going forward with the energy, I'm okay. But I don't know. I just wanted to put something out there, something with me that I'm working with, my procrastination at getting paperwork done. And maybe not always having to be wanting that full energy to do it, just making that first step. And then I found when you make the first step, the first couple steps, then there's a flow going, you know.
Right.
And so that's
good. All right. Thank you, Anaprabha. Heidi, and then Timothy, and then Mimi.
So making conscious decisions, I think in the area of parenting, like with my kids, I'm very conscious, like maybe a 9. And then in the area where I'm weaker is definitely around how I take care of myself. I'm compulsive, like I'm intentional, and then I'll compulsively eat, or in those kind of ways. I'm not as conscious. Oh.
That's a classic, you know, with the kids. Oh my God, I'm a god, I'm a goddess, I'm magnificent. But eating, oh yeah, I forget to do that, or the opposite, right? I eat too much, you know. So I'm really loving how perfectly human that is. Thank you, Timothy, and then Mimi.
Oh, this is tough for me because I have an understanding of consciousness that's multi-layered. So I don't see a very conscious world. I'm really hard on myself and everybody else. I think we're tricking ourselves to think that we're actually being conscious because we're consuming plastic and blah, blah, blah. So if I take that and set it aside and kind of go with what this is about, I'm relatively aware of the choices that I'm making, and I'm making them with a great level of consciousness. Where I trip up is when I want your approval. Then often I'll say yes to things or move too quickly because I'm coming from an insecure place. I'm wanting to be, you know, accepted, liked. And the other one is when my frontal lobes are lifted. You know, if I'm aroused, Jesus, I'm typically making choices from my heart or my penis or my yoni, not from my frontal executive space. And I'm really good. I will give myself this, like someone will say, hey, wait a minute. And the minute I get the kind of stop, slow down energy, boom, I'm back in my frontal lobes. I'm like, okay, what's happening? And so I'm really very gifted at shifting gears quickly. But when I'm aroused, it could be even like, you know, during a movie, or if someone's got a dessert that I really want to eat, and I know I'm not listening to the conversation. I'm thinking, when are we going to light those candles and eat that sucker, right? You know. So.
Thank you. I really, really appreciate, again, the perfectly humanness of it. And it brings up a couple of teaching coaching points. Again, we always want to have compassion and understanding for when someone is under the word you used of arousal or intoxication. And those are both really challenging moments, because when we are under the influence of hormones, say women during their menstrual cycle, say men from puberty until 80 years old.
I was going to say death.
No, I was going to say death, but you know, or when we're under the influence of, wow, I'm hungry. I'm under the influence of sexual attraction, under the influence of hormones. You know, we are spiritual beings, but we're in animal bodies, and these animal bodies can take over. And so again, that's where most of the time, when we or someone we're working with has made a choice that has hurtful consequences, they were either desperate to get a need met, or they were under the influence of something. And often both, right? They were desperate for love, and they were under the influence of alcohol. They were desperate to be heard, and they were under the influence of anger, right? Or rage. So this is where we compassionately need to understand. So thank you for bringing that up, Timothy. Thank you. Okay, if I recall my own order, it's Mimi, and then we'll have Love.
Hi. Okay. Timothy, thank you for that, because I really resonated with that. I don't necessarily go with consciousness. I go with how short and how long is my reaction time to something. Because consciousness to me is how woke are people. So I try to stay out of that, and just like, how short of a fuse do I have, or how long of a empathy, like how big is my empathy? And I think that what I recognized recently, and like one major piece that I brought to you, Scott, was there will be things that I sit with for years. And then all of a sudden I'm like, wow, that's really painful. I probably shouldn't be doing that to myself anymore. And then I'm done. Like there's no, so I'd say that like learning, for me, learning how to get into the space of self-care and ground into self-care immediately now, instead of, I used to be in a really desperate place and really want that attention. And now I'm like, I'm not there anymore. So my reaction time, I think, is becoming a lot more stable, and I'm able to speak into boundaries a lot more clearly.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mimi.
Yeah.
I want to welcome Mariko. And I think we had just a confusion on the time. But yes, Mariko, this is your class. And Mariko is from Oahu. We have a lot of Hawaii, by the way. We've got Timothy in Maui. We've got Mariko in Oahu, and we've got Heidi on the Big Island. So we've got 3 islands of Hawaii represented in this class. That's pretty cool. And we welcome Mariko. And we're going through the pillars of self-mastery. And what I'm going to do is when we break people up into pods, I'll keep you in the main room with myself and kind of catch up on where we are, because we're going to break up into pods soon. So we'll catch up that way. All right. I still want to hear from Love and then from Laura.
So I struggle most with making conscious choices when I'm noticing any of my patterns of coping mechanisms that I have, and there are several. And Aprabha, you mentioned it right at the end of your share of distraction. Distraction is a coping mechanism, checking out, numbing out, freeze, that whole situation when I'm in that. I liked, Scott, what you said, under the influence of. When I'm under the influence of one of my coping mechanisms, it really kind of does feel like that. My conscious choice on a scale from 1 to 10 is at a 2, but I'm getting better because now I've become so aware of the pattern that my consciousness with this pattern is developing, and getting to a point of making better conscious choices, not so much under the influence of that. So getting better.
Thank you, Love Divine. Thank you. I'm really appreciating your honesty. Laura.
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you, because so many things people have said are resonating with me, especially like the idea of arousal as also maybe anxiety, or like the tension of being misunderstood or misheard can sometimes lead to like trying to discuss things in a way that is less conscious than it could be, I think. And then I think this is something that I'm actually very focused on right now, is, like interrupting any responses that are not like kind of more thought out. My family style of communication is very straightforward, actually. People don't usually take care with how they say things, and no one really takes offense, but most people are not used to that. So I think it's important to be a little more diplomatic.
Yeah, thank you. That's definitely true. It's Twinkle Laura. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you 3 more of these pillars and just talk about them a little bit. And then you're going to each go into your pods. We're going to have 3 pods of 3 people each. And I'm going to stay, kind of outside and work with Mariko, and I'll probably pick one other person that I'll work with. So that's how we're going to do it. So kind of notice as we go through the 3, our pod leaders are going to be Lali, Anaprabha, and Heidi. So you'll kind of be in charge of the pods. So make sure that you definitely remember what the categories are. And here we go. So the next self-mastery tool, self-reflection. How do you do with self-reflection? Including, do you self-reflect throughout the day? Do you self-reflect in the morning, at night? how do you do with self-reflection? And again, as it is the case with all of these, how do you do in certain situations? Like maybe if you're in work mode, you self-reflect a lot or not. We all know Heidi self-reflects constantly about how she's doing with her daughters. There's a good example. But really, where are you strong with self-reflection? Where do you avoid self-reflection? That's going to be one that you're all going to share with each other in your pods. The next one is, how do you do with owning the consequences of your actions, choices, and behaviors on myself and others? How do you do with really owning it when you make a choice that has an impact on yourself or on someone else? How do you do with owning that? And I'm going to give you guys a cool little love coach tip here. Some of you have heard this before. There's what I call the 6 Ds that stop us from taking full responsibility for the impact of our choices. When we have made a choice that's had a hurtful impact, especially if it's hurtful for someone we love and care about, our ego comes to the rescue because we really don't want to fully feel the discomfort that we've made a choice that's impacted the other. And so these are and I'm putting them into the chat box. We defend, we distract, we deny, there's 3. We dominate, deflect, what's the one I'm forgetting? There is, if anybody who's seen this before can remember the 6th one, you're going to get a gold star. What is it? Defend.
Is it demand?
No, it's not demand. Oh, we diminish. Right. Oh, it's not that bad. Oh, it's not that bad. We diminish. So those are the 6 things that get in the way of our ability to really own the consequences of our choices. Okay. And just for fun, who finds that you'll tend to defend?
I'm really good at all of those.
Thank you, Tim. But that covers the bases. Who distracts? Look, a UFO. Who denies? I didn't do it. Right? Who dominates? Oh yeah, well, you know what else? And that's where we kind of gaslight, right? We kind of like turn it around, which is also a form of deflecting, right? And then diminishing. Who diminishes it? Oh, it's not that bad. It's not that bad, right? Okay. So that's and then the third one you guys are going to work on in your pods is honesty and transparency. Honesty and transparency. And remember, we are only honest to the degree that we feel safe to be honest. So you might say, hey, I'm really, really honest in this part of my life. But in this part of my life, I don't feel safe to tell my husband or tell my boss because I don't feel safe to be honest. So where do you feel safe to be honest and where don't you feel safe? And people often ask, well, what's the difference between honesty and transparency? And I have an example that I find is useful. Johnny, did you eat a cookie? Yes, I did. That's being honest. Mommy, I got to tell you, I ate a cookie. That's being transparent, right? It's kind of like fully revealing and coming forward and sharing versus when you're kind of under the gun, well, yeah, okay, I did it, right? So transparency is much more, it's like the full Monty, it's the full experience, okay? So let me just get these breakout rooms built. Perfect. Okay. So it is 6:06 p.m. There are going to be 3 of you in each breakout room, and I'm going to stay and work with Mariko. And let's come back at 6:30 my time, 3:30 Hawaii time. So you've got 24 minutes. So pod leaders kind of, keep it to about 7 minutes or 7.5 minutes for each of those topics, with everybody getting a chance to share how they do with it. Okay? If anybody has a question, you can ask, send me a message in the chat box. I'm opening the rooms, and you all need to click join room. And Mariko, you're going to stay in the main room with myself. And I will pause the recording.
Love, reflection, acceptance, and we basically turned vulnerability into inspiration. Wouldn't you say, girls? That's what we did. We turned vulnerability into inspiration, and it was beautiful. And yeah, we had plenty of time, and it was great.
Okay, good. And Anaprabha, how did things go with your group?
Yeah, we had a really beautiful group. We also just want to stay together as well.
Okay, all the
dream team.
All the pods can stay together for tonight, but next week I'm going to mix them up again.
Just to say, there was just this heartfelt women connecting on such a deep, resonant level of, and that's where the healing happens, right? Just whatever we're saying, when you're feeling someone else's heart hold you so deeply, and where you can express wounding, it's such a powerful way. And I love, Scott, actually how you're doing this with, we've done this a lot, or I've done this quite a few times with you. And I really love the aspect of breaking it up into the smaller groups and talking about each one. That's a really powerful way to do it.
Good.
So
well, that's how we're going to do it for the rest of tonight.
Yeah.
We will probably go beyond 7 o'clock, just to be prepared.
So we just brought up a little. Sorry, we just brought up a little bit about the shadow, working with the shadow, and how important that is.
Mm-hmm.
And then we all decided that we needed a little Mimi by us, a little miniature Mimi, that says she's going to ask permission, then go, this is all the stuff that I don't want to say, but I'm going to say it. So we decided that we love that. And it's just like vulnerability, like transparency, honesty, and really, how challenging it is sometimes to share these wounds, these deep wounding that we have had, and what that takes, and having a safe place to share. So that's
all right, I'm proud of all of you. So let's go on to what the next 3 are going to be. And again, pod leaders, just kind of take note. We'll go through the next 3, and then you guys will go back into your pods. So the next one is emotional accountability. Emotional accountability. How do you do with being aware of your range of feelings, the various feelings underneath the feelings, and being vulnerable about it? Now, for emotional accountability, a couple of fine points. Almost all people have a certain emotion that is their go-to. For many men, it's anger, right? So for the man who's been raised that boys don't cry, boys aren't vulnerable, boys aren't confused, then when he feels any of those uncomfortable feelings, he goes actually to anger. And anger becomes the cover emotion for fear, sadness, confused, overwhelmed. For some people, the cover emotion might be sadness. They go to feeling sad, but that covers that they're really angry or that they're really frustrated. For some people, to be honest, for me, my cover emotion is overwhelm, okay? So emotional accountability is noticing, okay, well, I'm in overwhelm, but wow, what's really underneath that is my fear or my sadness or whatever it might be. Also, by the way, emotional accountability is not just uncomfortable feelings. Some people have trouble with comfortable emotions, right? It's not cool to be happy. How can I possibly be happy when the whole world is going to hell, right? Or whatever it might be. So there are comfortable emotions that we may not allow ourselves. Pleasure. Some people cut themselves off from pleasure. Some people cut themselves off from joyfulness. So emotional accountability is really having a range of emotions that you have made peace with, and you're constantly expanding your range of emotions that you're willing to acknowledge with yourself and acknowledge with others. The flip side of it is, what are the emotions that you are disconnected from, disassociated from? A common one is anger, especially in this group. We've got all these spiritual women. Many of you may believe anger is bad. It's not spiritual to be angry. So you're disassociated. When anger comes up, you may disassociate. Does that make sense to everybody? So that's emotional accountability.
Hey, Scott, can you let me in? I'm trying to join now back on my laptop because now I got Netgear back on. We had all of our power go out during that for a minute. So in other words, I'm on here on my cell phone, but I'd much rather be on my laptop. And it says the host has another meeting in progress. So somehow I have to be let in. I don't know.
You're not showing up.
Oh, really?
You're not showing up in any other place, because it does. You're probably going into the wrong. You're going into the wrong meeting.
No, I clicked on. Well, I clicked on the mentorship thing that you had in our mentorship.
Did you click on the bottom one, the second one?
There's two
Okay,
of them.
I'll make sure I do. I'll make sure I
Click
do.
on the one at the very bottom.
I apologize for any interruption. I just want to get onto my laptop. Okay, I'll go back. I got it. Sheesh, Louisa.
All right, so I'll bring you in a little bit later, Deborah. I want to get back to the next one. So you're going to talk about emotional accountability, and then you're going to talk about my favorite one, curiosity. How do you do with curiosity? Okay. How do you do with that one? And just a quick reminder, there is prosecutorial curiosity. Why did you do that? Versus childlike wonder curiosity. Why'd you do that? Notice how the same words can be delivered in such a radically different way, right? So how are you at being curious? When somebody does something that triggers you, how do you do with going into curiosity? When you see something different than the way you want it to be, how do you do with curiosity? It's so, so important, okay? And Deborah, now you're coming in, so there you go. Okay, and then the last one you guys are gonna work on next is, how do you do with empathy, understanding, and compassion? And obviously they're all pretty connected. Understanding is more intellectual, seeking to intellectually understand each other. Empathy is really feeling with each other. And compassion is kind of looking at someone with care, but you're not necessarily feeling it with them at the level of empathy. And those are just my definitions. They all kind of go together. But as you're answering this question, how do you do with empathy, understanding, and compassion for others? How do you do with it for yourself? I bet some of you are great at giving empathy to others, but you're hard on yourself, or vice versa. Okay, so these are the 3 pillars you're going to work on next. Okay, and was that about the right amount of time? Could we have done less time or was that about the right amount of time? Okay, we're going to do a tad less. Let's come back at 7 o'clock. That's in 19 minutes. So you've got 19 minutes to cover these 3. All right. So Enrico, I'll just continue to work with you. So click join room. Oh, Deborah, I've got to put you in breakout room. Okay, there you go. And I'll see you all in 19 minutes. Remember to click join room, Deborah. Hey, you. Boy, you're getting all this like personal attention. I mean, it's, you're muted.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
So what is the cover emotion, or how do I deal with emotional?
Emotional accountability. Yeah, how are you with emotional accountability? Are there particular emotions that when they come up, you avoid them, you disassociate, you don't allow yourself to feel?
I have issues with women and being accepted by women. So any of those kinds of, those are really difficult to, because I don't even know what it is, because I was never really, I don't even know what the problem is to be able to attack it. It's kind of like the dysfunction between myself and my sisters, right?
Okay, so I'm guessing, see if this is accurate, I'm just guessing, that with your sisters, you're longing for acceptance. You're longing to be accepted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What could get in the way of that, or what could come up for you, is how are you at being vulnerable with your sisters? Like if you've made a choice, I can't be vulnerable with them. I can't be honest about what I'm truly longing for. I can't be honest about my desire to be accepted. Then you put up a wall and they feel the wall. Would that be?
Yeah, so with women who I deem to be like my sisters, sister-like, who give me that energy, I cannot be honest, transparent, or even emotionally, I can't have a range. I just gray wall because it's not safe for me to be vulnerable with my family entirely.
Yeah. So are there particular emotions, since we're talking about your family, what are some of the emotions that ran rampant in your family? And what are some of the emotions that people didn't do?
So being gaslit is something that I just kind of I will drop that. I will like kind of drop that potato and cut you off. I can't even really, I tend to just walk away and not try to have curiosity. I don't, it's too traumatic. That's the kryptonite, I would say. Where it's very gaslighty, then I gotta go. Like I can't go into it. But if it's not that trigger, then I might be able to be more curious about why it happened.
So gaslighting is real, but it's also, it's an interpretation. Now, it may be an accurate interpretation. When gaslighting is happening, it's because someone doesn't want to take responsibility for the consequence of their choice, like we talked about earlier. So is it all the members of your family, or a particular member or two of your family that tend to avoid responsibility by making others wrong?
So I'm the scapegoat. So it's kind of the dynamic is whoever's in the room against me. So it could be the dad and the sisters, or the mom and the sisters, or their kids and me. So yeah. So that's how that looks.
Yeah. So I just want to acknowledge how hard that is. And has it always been like that all your life? Or more like once you became a teenager?
It goes on and off. That's why I'm codependent, because it's kind of like it's sometimes it's okay and it's fine. It's been okay and fine, and then suddenly it's not.
Right.
Yeah, and it's kind of not. Yeah, so I don't even know what the question was. So that's another thing that happens. This trauma is so deep that I just kind of like, I blank out a lot. I lose memory. Like it just shuts off. The wheels just fucking stop turning. Like I can't even remember what the question is, or I lose direction, or And I know that that's true about me. So then I have to go back in our messages, Scott, and see, did I say 3 o'clock or did you tell me wrong? And be really empathetic towards myself and say, okay, I can see in the messages, we did talk about that. You're not gaslighting me. It's my fault. And be nice to myself and not try to make it more than it is. Okay, next week, you'll just show up at 2 o'clock. I'll tell my student, like, it's not, see it for what it is, not bigger than it is. And so then that's the skill that I've learned over time.
Yeah.
To take my sister's voices, the residual voices out of it, that call me a stupid retard over and over and over again, and then just kind of take accountability and then do it better the next opportunity I have, if I have an opportunity.
Right.
I
Welcome
joined
back. Welcome back, dear friends. Once again, do we have enough time? Did that work out time-wise? Yep. Okay. Anuprabha is saying no, Lolly is saying yes, and Heidi, I didn't get a clear read on. Okay, thumbs up. So Heidi, and then Lolly, and then Anuprabha. How did it go? Any highlights, any little tidbits?
I think we had a beautiful sharing again and really got into the heart. And I think that the three of us share some commonality in, we were all describing that we like to get into the nitty gritty and get it out and fix it. So these are steps that we need to put in between going to that solution. And so that was kind of one of the themes we all could connect on. And just the talk of these three things, was really heart opening and brought up some really deep stuff.
Beautiful. Okay, great. Yeah, I love everyone that's in this room, so it's really cool watching you guys get to know each other. Okay, twinkling. Lolly, how things go with your group?
So things went really well with us. I think the biggest thing for the three of us was embodying, there's a concept that's been around for, 20 years, self-love, but how do you really embody it? And how do you measure that, the consequences of an action with the relationship of self-love? Like when you start, and also allowing yourself the time and space to develop that, it doesn't have to be fast, but each time you feel bad about yourself, right? If you've made a certain action or you weren't able to get into curiosity, then it's an easy pull to start transforming that, where you absolutely only want to do things because you're only married to yourself, and you only wake up with yourself and go to sleep with yourself every day, no matter who you're partnering with or who else is in your life. So there was kind of a theme between the three of us, and it was really beautiful.
Cool. Thank you. Twinkling on your group. And Anuprabha?
Yeah, it's really beautiful to really go deeply into these. It's a really wonderful, I could just keep going on and on. We can go deeper and deeper. It's just very powerful working together, and I really appreciate it. And the cover emotion that two of us had was the anger, and because we came out of military families, so anger was our cover, right? And then so that covered up, our fear and sadness, right? So that wasn't ever safe. So it was always anger, and the other person, it was sadness, was a cover. And often, sadness, I realize, is also, that was like a PC way for women to have sadness. It's okay for women, right?
Totally.
Right?
I think we've all known somebody that goes to cry. Oh, they get attention, don't cry. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's covering up anger. Yeah. That sadness cover up anger. And so, and just to say that the rage that really women are covering up. There is a lot of anger and rage that women do cover.
Yes, and that's why men are scared shitless and want to keep you in crying and out of rage. Would much rather comfort you while you cry than deal with, hell hath no fury. Right?
Really, raging Durga. Yes.
Yeah, no,
right.
I'm just picturing
with the head.
With the head and the sword.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. And so. It was just this depth of heart space again, and then the curiosity, and really how important that is, and working with that curious quality, and I think we have some, like Mimi was saying, it depends which child and which time of the day, right? Which is, I must have to agree, which, you know, was my son and my daughter. You know, we have different ways and of, you know, where your patience is too, you know.
Right.
And so yeah, that's basically it. We had a very deep connection. Yeah.
Good.
I'm very grateful. They really, the heartful and open and vulnerable, you know, and authentic. Yeah.
And I want to report, as I've been working with Marika, it's been really, she's been also very vulnerable, sharing a lot about. So it's all Twinkle Mariko, who's been getting private tutoring and sharing. So she will be in a pod next week. Okay, we've got 2 left to do. So let's go take a look at what they are. How come my share button has disappeared? Well, that's strange. Huh. For some reason, my share button is gone. In fact, my whole toolbar is gone. That's very strange. Is somebody else coming in?
And now you're gone.
That doesn't make any sense at all. Okay, here we go. That was weird. All right, technology. We do appreciate it. How do you do with self-love? So the question actually is self-love. There's a little self at the heart. How do you do with self-love? Remembering that often we are accused that to be self-loving is to be selfish. But when we love ourselves, then we can make the commitment to being an embodiment of love and being of service through that expression. So the idea is by loving ourselves, then we actually have that much more to give to others. And we're giving to others from our full cup, as opposed to giving to others through not having that much and keeping everybody in kind of scarcity and survival and depletion. But if we fill our cup and then we serve from the full cup, right? So how do you do with self-love? And then as you love yourself, really honoring the commitment to being an embodiment of love and service through that, okay? And then the last one is sacred mirrors. How do you do with seeing yourself in everything and everyone? Whatever's going on in the world, coronavirus, Donald Trump, my husband, my wife, my mother, my kids, whatever it is that's going on, do you stay in, oh my God, this is evil, or this is bad, or this is the belief system? Or do you go, wow, I'm learning about such and such through coronavirus. I'm seeing through my husband's eyes my quality of such and such. So it's Sacred Mirrors is it's sophisticated, it's advanced, but it's ultimately the way we want to learn to see the world. So it's not, again, all about our external belief systems. I'll give one more quick example. Right now with coronavirus, I mean, can you believe how many different belief systems are out there on the internet? It's the Pleiadians preparing us for fifth dimension. It's a biological weapon, and the same people who created it have created the vaccine that's going to force us to take it and get chips in our bodies and everything in between, right? And like, there's a lot of belief systems out there. As you find yourself gravitating to a belief system, do you become fanatical to prove that that's true? Or do you go, wow, why am I choosing to believe this? Why am I attracted to believing the Pleiadians, or believing that Trump is evil, or believing that it's the reptilians, or whatever it is, right? So we always want to bring it back to ourselves. How do you do with that? So I know that in your pods where you have bonded so beautifully, you're going to be able to go deep into those questions. It's 7:09, so let's do 15 minutes and then we'll just come back for concluding thoughts. And I apologize for going late tonight, but deep stuff, right? Okay, so please go back into your breakout rooms. And I'll see you all in 15 minutes.
Hey, Scott, after this, would you be willing to put up the slide of the first one? I missed that one, and I want to talk with somebody.
The slideshow, Deborah, if you go into go into the thread that everybody's on, you'll find the slideshow there.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. You're muted, Mariko.
Okay, I want to talk about self-love because I'm looking for a partner and I've been single for 5 years. And I hate cliches and I hate catchphrases, but one of them that I currently hate is, if you don't love, how can you find a partner if you don't love yourself? And I think about, I love myself so hard and so much and self-source and so independent. And I love, love, love myself to death.
Well, it sounds, based as I'm getting to know you, that you love parts of yourself, but there's other parts of yourself that you judge. So, you know, I mean, I've heard both. There's times I've heard you really proclaim the ways you love yourself, which I believe. I've also heard you proclaim the ways that you were really hard on yourself and overly judge yourself. So it's not black or white. It depends on the category. Do you believe that you would make a great partner for someone? Do you have a self-concept that you would be a really wonderful partner for someone?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's good. So describe to me the partner that you are perfect for.
I really just want a sacred mirror, and I've also prayed for that, you know, like someone who is as good and as strong and as conscious and as spiritual and as sexy as me or more, you know? That's what I want. And I feel like I can get that, and I'm going to hold out until that. Because the people who have crossed my path even recently, I'm just like, I'm not going to get really excited about them because they're not on the same, we're not walking side by side in the beginning. So what the hell is the future going to be like? So I don't have a future with people who don't meet my standards and these very basic things.
How are you at dropping into another person's world?
Well, one of the persons that I'm trying to see has 4 kids. 3 of them live with him now, and the girl's boyfriend. So I'm really trying to understand what that's like to, and most of the men in their 40s are going to have children, or women, I'm queer. But people who you date in your 40s are going to have kids, and how do you deal with that? Just trying to really be understanding that you'll never be number 1.
Yeah.
And that you'll maybe be number 3 or 4. So that's really hard. So, but I was trying to like get into that and be more empathetic to that.
Okay,
but
good.
So at the end decided, I don't think I like that. You know, I think I'd rather date someone who has no kids.
Hey, I'm open to a woman with kids, but the times that I've dated with women with kids, it ultimately hasn't worked out because I really like having a lot of attention.
Oh my God. Hey. Me too.
Yeah, I do. And I give a lot of attention to my girlfriend, and I like to get a lot of attention. And a woman who's got kids, especially if they're young and they need a lot, her first choice is going to be the kids all the time. And so, you know, Emily was clear. She never wanted to have kids. And so we were able to give each other a lot of attention, you know. So I get that one.
Yeah,
Question.
that never ends, you know. They're always going to be their number 1s forever.
All right. What's your self-love about your body, your physical appearance?
Oh, it's great right now. I mean, I went on this keto diet when I moved to Hawaii, and I lost 20 pounds, and I'm feeling better than ever. You know, I was fat in Japan, so I lived in Japan for 3 years, and I wasn't able to smoke pot regularly. And my whole world was turned upside down, so I just drank a lot of carbonated alcohol and carbs and ate. Yeah.
Cool. Congratulations. How tall are you?
5'1".
Wow. Yeah. So 20 pounds on 5'1" is a big difference. Yeah.
And I used to have double chin and stuff, and I was like fat for Japan, because even now that I'm skinnier, I'm still fat for Japan. Like Japanese, Asian frames are very, very.
That's right. They're very thin. Yeah. Yeah.
And your cultural, your environment in America really lends to a body type, I think, and they haven't really explained how that works. But you know, Asian Americans look different than Asians.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
All right. How do you do with sacred mirrors? How do you do with seeing the world, seeing others, you know, and as you look at things, bring it back to yourself, looking at, okay, what is this telling me about myself? What am I learning about myself?
Yeah, I'm always studying that because I'm a tantrika, so that is part of my work, and that is part of my kind of daily spiritual assignment, or the way that I see the world. So this client that just happened, that's a mirror. How is that coming to me? What am I doing to attract that? You know, I see it all as a lesson. You know, and it was like significant. He tells me, oh, my issue is codependency and money. Then my reaction is like, oh yeah, that's because you want me to like text you back right away, and I hate that. But then you know, it's like trying to see myself in this person. All difficult interactions, trying to see myself in that person.
Right. So, first of all, I respect you for that. Good job. And where do you struggle to be in sacred mirror? Like, do you judge Trump? Do you get caught up in politics? Do you get caught up in belief systems?
Like with women, like the thing with Laura, it's a little hard, and I just like don't like. I just feel, I mean, it's not ongoing hard, but I can't put my finger on why with women because I haven't had a lot of exercise in that area. I just kind of retreat back, hang out with myself, hang out with gay guys, hang out with guys. Like I just don't exercise or lubricate that muscle. And
right.
I've run away from it consistently for a very long time, you know? So when I have problems with women, I kind of just wrap it up as quickly as possible and try to make it okay, I guess. I don't know.
Okay. Let's go back to women for a moment because we were talking about that and then we kind of got onto your family. But with female friendships, it sounds like it still is challenging for you.
Yeah, right now. I have in the past been, no, I do have female friends now. Sorry, I forgot. It's rare though, you know what I mean? Like it's not like something I take for granted, or it's not natural for me to have a bunch of girlfriends, or to have women be a go-to for me.
Are you competitive with women? Do you have a competitive thing?
No. I have a independent thing.
So is it that you don't know how to relate to women? You're so good as a tantrika. You've got so much experience relating to men. Is it that you're just much more familiar and comfortable and practiced at relating to men than relating to women?
Well, I just kind of explained how I got to be that way, you know, like I was ostracized by my sisters, so I don't have a lot of practice. My mom's mentally ill. I have to kind of sift through a lot of the stuff she says, so I can't trust what she says, and I have to filter through it. I can't listen to all of it. I have to tune out. So I don't have a lot of the muscle required to be like a good girlfriend, I feel like. But I do have a female friend now, you know, and that feels strong and good. I get along well with transgender women or old women. So one of my BFFs is Carol Lee. I don't know, you know Scarlet Harlot, Carol Lee?
No.
Okay, she's good friends with Annie Sprinkle.
Oh, okay.
Older women who are way older and transgender women. So maybe I do have a competitive thing, and I just go with people who are way out of the, you know, we don't compete with each other. So that's why I'm trying to get along. So my chosen mother, Carol Lee, is like 69 years old. Annie Sprinkle at one time was a good friend of mine.
You know, sometimes women that have been in the sex industry had kind of a competitive, comparative thing because they're competing for clients at the strip club, or they're competing for clients one way or the other. And because we already live in a world that judges women based on their looks, and then when you're working in the sex industry, there's a super high competitive, comparative thing that can take place. Understandably, because it's your livelihood, it's your work, and it's like, well, why is that guy choosing her instead of me? Has that been something you've had to tackle and work with?
I just kind of, it's the same. Everything about my sex work mirrors my family upbringing. Every single fucking thing, you know? So I'm a renegade because I was ostracized. I don't compete with them. I'm in my own category. I don't need anybody. You know, I don't do well working at places where I need to be part of a team. So if I have to be in a strip club where it's like a clique, I don't do well there. If I have to be part of a you know, a unit, I'm really an independent worker. I got kicked out of a brothel, you know, like, I'm not good at bonding with women in a way that is normal.
Yeah, so I really want to invite you in Love Coach Academy to work on that, because this is going to be a place where there's really cool women that you can collaborate with, be in a pod with, coach, receive coaching from. So I'm glad we're talking about this, because this is a wonderful opportunity for you to work on that. Is that something that you can embrace?
Yeah, it's really like the type of, yeah, I think I've already made connections with Anapurva, and you know, Laura is my friend, but since I'm working so heavily on my codependency, I'm like really I'm having trouble being able to sift through her behavior and my trying to distance myself from things that are codependent.
Right.
So it's like difficult. That's what I'm challenged with right now.
Oh, let me tell people 2-minute warning. Let me do one other place. Anything else you want to share that's come up in our remaining 90 seconds?
Oh yeah, my family is my kryptonite, and I should get over it by now at 44, and I'm working to do that, but I mean, it's so obvious. It's in everything that I do, and I don't want it to define my whole life.
Right.
And I'm trying to not.
Yeah, well, we're going to work with that a lot. We're going to work with that a lot for sure. I'm trying to save the chat. Ah, great. Okay, there we go. Save chat. Chat saved. Well, it's been good to get to know you even more fully, Mariko. Twinkling you, thank you for being honest and revealing yourself and bearing your soul. 5'1", that's really tiny. That is really, really tiny. I'm a 6'2" guy, so like 5'1" is really tiny.
Yeah, and I don't have a double chin anymore. See that?
Oh, you look great. You look great. Yeah, you look good.
I know. I'm like, it's made my skin better and I'm just healthier. I don't feel the desire to drink anymore. Drinking was really like, I don't know, it was really great. I'm so glad I went to Japan. You know, it really flipped everything on its back.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good.
Good. Good. Yeah. It's, especially right now with coronavirus, it's so important for us to build our immune system. Lots and lots of alkaline water, alkaline foods, as opposed to acidic foods. So we really want to
Oh,
avoid.
really? I have lemon in my water, thinking that's
Yeah,
gonna help.
lemon is really good. Lemon water is really, really good.
Is that acid though?
No,
What's
lemon is alkaline.
Oh, okay. It's alcohol.
Yeah. Acidic would be soda pop, coffee, alcohol, sugar. Those are all acidic, and we want to avoid acidic, and we want to embrace alkaline. It's the Heidi Pod. The 2/3 Hawaii, and I know Love Divine also loves Hawaii, so there's definitely that aloha vibe. Hey everybody, welcome back. I want to just really ask real quick, just to the pod leaders, have anything that they want to share. You don't have to share if you don't want to. I definitely want us to be done by 7:30. But anything that is important for the pod leaders to share? Heidi?
I just want to share deep appreciation for getting to be with them tonight and for this practice. Thank you.
Good.
Mahalo.
Anaprabha?
Yes, I have to follow that too, because it was such a deep connectedness. And I think a big thing for us women was to unlearn that self-love is selfish.
Yeah.
I think that's very, very deep. Just
Yeah,
unlearn
it
that
is really
self-love
deep.
is selfish.
That's right. And Lolly?
Ours was to teach is to learn twice.
Only twice? Twice today and tomorrow and the next day. Beautiful. Couple last questions. Say goodbye to Allison. She's going to be going to the Monday group. I mean, the Thursday group. You are the Monday group. Is everybody else here good to stay with Mondays? Is that good for everybody else? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, good. Well, congratulations. You are now the gold group. Last question. If I start a Wednesday night practice group, who would be there consistently? Not always, but who would be there consistently if we start a Wednesday night practice group? Okay, cool. Okay, good to know.
What do you think is night in California?
It would be, again, a 5 or 6 o'clock start time, which would be 2 or 3 o'clock. Yeah.
So, Scott, is that just Mondays and Wednesdays you're saying? Is that correct for the
Monday
days?
Monday night is absolutely the mentorship group, your mentorship group. If I start a Wednesday night practice group, it'll be open to everybody. It'll be open to both mentorship groups, relationship essentials group. We might even sometimes go live on Facebook. So it looks like, we have enough people to make it worthwhile. So, all right. If you haven't gotten back to me about your availability for doing the online stuff with Love Coach Academy, please get back to me on that. Great start, everybody. I will put the recording of this into our thread. Remember to always check the thread and try and keep the thread to announcements and things that are important for everybody to see, okay? And not too many, no individual conversations. Individually converse with each other privately. Much love to each of you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Scott, for this opportunity and everything else.
Love
You've
each
got
and
a
every one of
question
you.
there, Scott. You've got a question.
Oh, a question from
Oh, I
who?
have a question. Did you say to message you this kryptonite? What is your kryptonite? Or
Yes, send it to me in a private message. Yeah.
so like Facebook?
Yeah, Facebook private message, exactly. Yeah. All right, thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.